Hello, this is part 2 of the Soulslike dialogue tutorial, and in this part I'm going to show you how you can make a branch appear on screen for the player to make choices in the conversation, and how to save those choices for later use. But first, let's do some quick fixes and improvements to the previous tutorial inside of the str dialog structure. Let's open this up. You can see we have has branch and has condition. We're going to delete these two because we don't need them, because branch data and conditions are both arrays, which means we can just check whether or not the array is empty, and based on that we can discern if this has any conditions or branches. So let's go ahead and save this. And if I now open up my DT wizard, you can see that all the other things that I had set are still there, so we can go ahead and save this. And in the AC dialog, it is now going to... it is still going to compile. I thought we'd get some errors, but apparently not. So we can save this one as well. Another improvement we can make is to migrate the interaction event from the wizard into the dialog system. This way, anything or anyone who has a dialog system or a dialog component attached to them will be interactable and will therefore be usable with the dialog you have given it. So let's go ahead and just select all of this and say Ctrl X to cut it and Ctrl V to paste it. Now the problem is this will make a custom event, which means we have to delete this, then go into class settings, go to implemented interfaces and search for the interaction. BPI interaction. Now in the interfaces tab we can implement the event interact and hook it up here. Now then this is going to have the AC dialog variable, which is no longer valid because that is a self. So you could replace all of these with just the regular variables. However, just implementing this interface isn't going to work because we are never interacting with a component, always with the actor that owns it. So let's go into our player character. So let's press Ctrl P and search for third person character. And in here, instead of the hit actor, we are going to get component by class. The class being the AC dialog, and this will be the target with which to interact. Now then, this will always interact with the dialog system. So if you want to mix this with the elevator system, where you would interact with the levers, you would instead try this is valid. Make sure you get the function and not the macro. I would usually recommend the macro, but the function in this case returns a boolean, which means we can use this in a select node. I'm going to use just a regular select, not a select object. Select. And then off of false, we are going to use the actor, and off of true, I'm going to disconnect this, connect it to the AC dialog. So if the AC dialog is valid, then we use the interaction script on the dialog system. If it is not valid, then we just use it on the actor. So let's see, in the AC dialog, we now have the event interact being called. So if I now interact with my wizard, you must be mine, he works. So then that's it for the fixes and improvements we can do. Let's now try adding the widget for the branch menu to the viewport. So when the branch is visible, it should be pausing the dialogue. So if I, for instance, interact with him, or if a line has ended naturally, then we should not start talking. We should instead call another branch. And I'm going to move this down a bunch, move this forward a bunch, and branch data, reveal this as a pin. I'm going to try not empty. So if the array is not empty, which means there is a branch, if that is not the case, then we can just skip the line like before. If it is the case, then we need to show the widget. So let's try making a new function and call this show branch. Let's make it show choice. We are going to create widget. I did it the first time this time. And the class being WBP branch, not branch button, but branch. And then here you can see the branches is already exposed on spawn. If you haven't yet set this up, you can find your WBP branch in the graph, create the branches as the str dialog branch type, make sure it is an array, and click the instance editable and expose on spawn. This way you'll be able to see it right when you spawn or create the widget. So what are we filling in? We are going to get proper data table entry, outrow break results, hide unconnected, and only have branch data as a pin, and connect it into here. That is the branch data of the current line that we need. So the return value we are going to add to viewport. So we only need to add this to the viewport because inside of the construction script of the branch widget, we've already set this to do all that we needed to do in order for the branch to show up in the proper, with the proper text and condition IDs, or branch IDs, sorry. Alright, so the next thing we need is to enter the branch button. This has no code yet, but the branch button has the branch ID. Now inside of the branch button, we are going to find a way to pass through what the branch ID was if this button was selected. And we are going to pass it directly to the WBP branch widget because this already has references to each branch button. So in order to store those references, we are going to create a new variable, call this branch buttons of type WBP branch button, like so. Make sure this is an array. And then at the end here, we're going to get this array and say add unique. No, wait, just add. And what are we adding? Not this one. This is an incompatible variable type. It needs to be this one. So I'm going to create a reroute node. Like so. And this will add each of the branch buttons to the array. And then off of completed here, we're going to run another for each loop with the branch buttons as the array. And then for each array element, well, that's what we're going to make inside of the branch button. So inside of the branch button, I'm going to implement the onClicked event for the button. And then here I'm going to make a new event dispatcher, call this onChoiceMade, and add an input of the branch ID of type name. And then we just call this event dispatcher whenever the button is clicked. So this will pass through the branch ID that was assigned to the button. And for each of the buttons, I'm going to say bind event to onChoiceMade. So now if any of the buttons pass through their onChoiceMade event, I can run a custom event and call this relay choice or something. So for now, let's just print string, and in the string will be the choice. So this won't work yet because we need to add this show choice thing to our conditions. So let's just put this in here. So now if we try to interact with him again to skip a line, it will now show the choice. So let's try this out.
You.
Yes, and now you can see that these choices are here. However, I can't select them yet because I forgot to do the following. I need to get player controller set input mode game and UI. Whoops. I'm going to flash the input and not hide the screen, not hide the cursor. And I also need get player controller and show mouse cursor. Set this to true. So now we can skip this again, and now it will tell me in the print string which of these I have chosen. So it's branch A, B, and C. Now you may have noticed this is only going to work if you interact an extra time while he is talking to skip a line, but not when a line is naturally progressing. Because if that is the case, we don't even check for anything like branch data. So let's go ahead and fix this. Let's add the branch data as an output to this dialog structure. Let's move this to the side a little bit. And then from the branch data, we are going to say not empty, which means there is branch data present. So we are going to run a branch. If there is no branch present, we can just do this. But if there is a branch, then I'm going to say show branch. No, it was show choice. So let's go ahead and try this out.
You must be my new assistant. You'll do, I suppose.
Right, so this isn't exactly the way I needed it to be. Now it is happening immediately as the line is passed, instead of when the line is finished. So let's, instead of doing this, let's try something else. I need to do another select string. So instead of this branch, I'm going to select another string. If this is empty, we can say start talking. If this is not empty, we need to say show choice and hook this into the B. So now this should be the way that I need it to be.
You must be my new assistant. You'll do, I suppose.
Yes, alright. Now it adds these branches and I can pick whichever one I need. So then, now that we have confirmed we can add our choice to the viewport, we need to also be able to remove the choice from the viewport. So this will be hide choice. And I realized we need a reference to the choice to do this. So right here, we are going to say promote to variable, say branch widget, like so, and then disconnect this to avoid overlapping connections. This goes into the hide choice, so we go hide choice and remove from parent, like so. We also need to get player controller once again and set input mode game only. Make sure to flush the input here because we are clicking. Let's also go and set show mouse cursor to false to hide the mouse cursor again. There. This should now work. So now when we relay our choice, we need to be able to hide the choice widget. So how are we going to do that if we don't have a reference to our component? So let's go and add a new variable, call this owning component. It should be of type AC underscore dialog, object reference. Make sure it is instance editable and expose on spawn and compile this. Then in the AC dialog under the show choice widget, we're going to refresh this node and the owning component should be get a reference to self. So now that we have a reference to our owning component, we can go into the branch, get the owning component and say hide choice, like so. So now the choice will be hidden as soon as we press the button. Let's try it out.
You.
There we go. It says I have chosen wizard branch 1A. And he should also continue talking, I just realized. So let's get the owning component again and say start talking. There. He should now continue his conversation.
Behind you, press.
Yes. However, you may have noticed they still don't do anything with the chosen branch here. So instead of start talking, we need to first save what choice we had made. Now this part is a little bit dependent on what your project uses and needs. You could choose to save the choices to the owning component, which means if you have interactions with multiple NPCs, you would somehow need to communicate between different components which choices had been saved. What I'm going to do is, since the player is usually, in my case, always the one making the choices, I'm going to save them to the third-person character, but not directly to the third-person character. We are going to use this modularly. So we are going to make a new blueprint class of type actor component, call this AC underscore player dialogue choices, like this. We save this and we add a single variable called choices. Make sure it is of type name and that it is an array. So this is where all of the choice IDs, perhaps that is a better name, choice IDs, will be stored. We can delete this. And inside of the branch, we are going to get player character, get component by class, the class being player choices, player dialogue choices. In here we are going to get choice IDs and we are going to add unique. And we are adding the branch ID to the place where it is being stored. Now it is only storing them, it is not getting them from the proper location. So in the AC dialog under conditions met, currently we are saving the choices to this specific one, but this was only being set manually. So instead of this, I am going to delete the choices variable and I am going to once again get player character, get component by class. Class is player dialogue choices, and we then get choice IDs. So this will read the choice IDs to make sure it contains the proper conditions that are required to play a line. So let's see, here we have a branch. If I say happy to help, he should say
behind you is a device.
It did not work. Accessed none, trying to read property, add unique component by class. Oh, right, we haven't added, silly mistake, we have to add the component. Player dialog choices, because now we are getting the component by class when the component is not part of the player character. So, let's try this again.
You.
Happy to help.
Good. Straight to business. I like it. Behind you is a device.
And then he returns to his regular
what?
lines. So instead, let's try a different choice.
You really don't know who you're talking to, do you? Unbelievable. And irrelevant. Behind you is a device. Press the
and he returns to the regular stuff. And that's pretty much it for this tutorial. This is how you can add branches to your dialogue and have the player pick different choices and have different outcomes based on those choices. So that'll be it for me for today. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, please let me know by leaving a like. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I will do my best to help out. Also stay tuned for the next part of this tutorial where I will show you a timed choice. So you have to pick the right decision on time, or the game will choose something for you. So that'll be all. I hope to see you again next time, and good luck!